And welcome back to the show. The New York Institute for Special Education is a private, not for profit, non sectarian educational facility with quality programs for children who are blind, visually disabled, emotionally and learning disabled, and preschoolers who are developmentally delayed. As we approach a year of living in the COVID-19 pandemic world, well, the institutions continued advancing their student skills, but the social distancing and sanitation guidelines have made it a difficult job for hands-on assistance. What types of approaches teachers and administrators can find in making creative ways to educate their students? Well, joining us now to tell a bit more about the details is the executive director of the New York Institute for Special Education, Dr. Bernadette Kappen, and we thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having us today. It's been a challenging year, but one that we're so happy to be able to support the students.
Yeah, we talked about it being a challenging year. Give us a little bit of insight into how it's been. I mean, we're almost coming up on a whole year. What's it been like for your institution?
I think in the beginning, when we were thinking about getting it together, it seemed overwhelming. But then as the team started to work together, it was all about organization and thinking about ways that we could keep the staff and the students safe. So really organizing the rooms for social distancing. We're lucky in that we have a low student staff ratio to begin with, but then to make the space in the room so that we were following the guidelines. All of our children are so involved in touching through learning. So it's important again that they had individual bins for all of their items so that they weren't sharing items to make sure that everyone was safe. So we did a lot of work on that. The CDC, as you know, they were talking a lot about movement in the hallways and social distancing. If you have no vision, it's hard to know who's in front of you or 6 feet, which side of the hallway. So one thing we tried was we ran a thin wire and covered it with floor tape down the center of the floor so that when their cane hit the tape and the bump or their foot, they knew to move to the right. And that's worked out really well in being able to keep the children separate. We also keep the children in their cohorts. They're not moving around. The elementary always stay together, but for middle school and high school, they stay with their group rather than moving. And that's really been helpful. The kids, I have to say, have been terrific. I mean, they follow the rules, they wear the masks. It's hard. I think the socialization part is really challenging for them, that they're not able to be with their friends the way they were. But it's critical that they come to school. And we've had really good success with that in bringing the children to school and keeping them healthy.
Yeah, when you talk about the socialization aspect, I think that's the first thing that comes to mind, right? That kids are, sociable. And this is a very important component, particularly for those who are blind. So the creativeness, how hard was it for you to develop a creative plan to be able to deal in this particular way?
As you said, it is a challenge. We've been trying even at lunchtime, since they have to stay together. Before, when they would have lunch, they could sit with other friends and chat. We've been trying to use Google Meets at lunchtime so that they could talk with other students. We have a small residential program as well. So in the evening, they are at their tables 6 feet apart. We give them more time in the lunchroom, in the dining room, to be able to be together and to chat. I think that's been helpful. We've tried to keep the same kind of social opportunities. The student government has had virtual Valentine's parties, holiday parties, so that we want them to be able to experience similar kinds of things, but it's in a different way.
And so going forward, as we are now moving into a year, talk to us about how you see things playing out for the rest of the school year.
I think that hopefully, as more people, as we know, are getting vaccinated, that should have less stress and anxiety for people in thinking that they're going to get the virus. I very much see that we're going to be continuing to have social distancing, wearing masks. But I do think that maybe the anxiety will be less. And I'm hoping that more parents will feel secure in sending their kids to school, because we've had good luck. We've really not had many issues here at school and keeping the students and the staff well. So we really want the children to be able to come back to school. Now that the weather will get nicer, we've been talking about What can we do more things outside? We have a small project with the Greenberg Nature Center where they do some gardening activities outside. We'll start that again. We're hoping to just bring more things outdoors for the students.
We talked a lot about what the challenges have been like for students. Can you give us an idea about what it's been like for teachers from your perspective?
That definitely is the thing that makes us successful, would be the teachers and the staff. When this all started, we didn't really have a sense of what was going to happen, but they quickly rallied. We did some staff training over the summer as well to gear up, that they were able to use the Google Classroom, Google Meets. It is a challenge in that we have children, they're here, many of them 5 days a week in class, as well as students that are at home. So the teachers are teaching both groups at the same time. Creativity is really what it's all about. And I think for the students and the staff, really to have that relationship is critical. We've had staff, even in the residential program, making connections with the students in the evening to make sure that things were going okay, if they needed more help with different activities. So it has been a challenge, I think, for staff to meet the new needs of the students.
So for a person that's watching right now saying, okay, you're dealing with the blind population, and we know that most everyone has to like transition virtually. How do you do that in regards to bringing creative programming, bringing programming to students who are blind from a virtual platform?
We had to really gear up with the technology. Every student had their iPad at home, their keyboard. Students use what's called voiceover, where everything that's seen on the screen they can hear, so that we need to make those adaptations and other pieces of assistive technology to help them be involved. It's not easy, because again, for many of the younger students, they're learning the technology. It's a little bit easier for students that are maybe in high school that have had more experience, but it's really important. The parents, I will say, have been a huge help in working with the students at home, getting them logged in if they're not familiar with being able to do that. As you know, many blind people use Braille as their primary medium, and that's a challenge, particularly with young children, in teaching them Braille because it's such a hands-on activity. So that again is where we need the parents' help if they're at home and here. Staff, again, in teaching to our students, we really couldn't always maintain 6 feet because you need to be close to them, but they have used the appropriate PPE and they've engaged with the students to make sure they get what they need.
So if people want more information about how they can support, what can they do? What can the public do to continue to support the work that you're doing?
I think one thing is awareness of how terrific kids are that are blind and visually impaired, and to really be promoting the idea that they can do whatever they want to do. One thing during this time, we have many students that are graduating. And one of our vocational teachers, she arranged several different Zoom meetings with the different colleges in the area so the students would still be able to apply and be part of college. Internships, that's one thing too. In the public, if people are listening and you have the desire to have a student for an internship, we have students that are really capable there. And also, if you have a child that's blind or visually impaired and you need some help during this difficult time, we're here to help you.
So I'm looking right now and I'm saying to myself, we're at a year. A lot of people have gotten this fatigue, if you will, of dealing with the whole process for about a year. Give me how you guys are doing from an emotional standpoint of really trying to navigate and pivot, and then at the same time just dealing with the virus and all that this pandemic has caused head on.
That's something that's important. I think in trying to keep motivated, when we started the school year out, a theme that we had was joy, in trying to bring joy into each day, even though it's such a struggle. And I think thinking of the positive. The positive is seeing the children and how happy they are to come to school. We've tried to do some things with the staff to keep them connected. We've had virtual activities for the holidays. We'll be upcoming having a staff appreciation activity. And I think just being connected in whatever way we can and being happy to see each other, I think that's important when people have struggled so hard with the virus, either themselves or their family members.
Dr. Bernadette Kappen, thank you so much for being our guest here on Open. Certainly our pleasure to have you. And maybe one day we'll have one of your students on and they can talk about it too.
That'd be great. Thanks so much.
All righty, Dr. Bernadette Kappen, our guest here on Open. Now, if you want more information, we encourage you, please visit their website, nyise.org, or you can follow them on social media at NYISE999. We encourage you, don't go anywhere. We still got more Open coming up. We'll be right back right after this.